I just got a text from someone that they're in the Zoom waiting room.
All right, so good afternoon again, and welcome everyone. Orit Kalman, I'm a senior facilitator with Sac State, and today is my first day on the job, so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for including me in the work that you do. I'm going to in terms of convening the meeting, I'm going to turn it over to CARB staff Johnny Raymond to call roll and establish quorum.
Yes, hello. Thanks everyone for attending the AB 32 Environmental Justice Advisory Committee. Appreciate your time and engagement with the committee and sitting in. And we do have a dedicated public comment period, so thank you for attending. So I'm going to start with the roll call.
All right, so before we're going to do the roll call and establish quorum, just to make sure that everybody has access to our conversation and is able to fully participate, on the next slide, we have some instructions for, I'm waiting for the next slide. Okay, so instructions for listening to language interpretation. And this applies to everyone who is joining today. In your meeting controls, click interpretation. It can be located at the bottom of the screen, as you can see here on the slide.
Thank you. I would go ahead and provide those instructions in Spanish as well for our other Spanish-speaking participants. En los controles de la reunión que vamos a tener, en la parte de abajo, haga clic donde dice interpretación. Esto se puede localizar en la parte de abajo.
Click the language that you would like to hear for this meeting. You will have English and Spanish as your options.
Haga clic en el idioma que desea escuchar para esta reunión y las opciones aparecerán en inglés y en español.
Thank you. And to only hear, this applies only to those who are using the Spanish language. To only hear the interpreted language, click Mute Original Audio.
Y esto aplica para todos los hispanohablantes que van a escuchar esta reunión en español. Así que, por favor, de presionar una vez donde está el icono de un mundo y elegir poner en silencio audio original.
Thank you. And just to reiterate that everyone joining remotely has to go through this process of selecting a language today.
Y simplemente para reiterar, todos los que están presentes en esta reunión deben de elegir el idioma de su preferencia. Thank you, and you may continue.
I have a question. For Spanish speakers that may be here or may show up, are they gonna translate the entire meeting? Like we take pauses and then it gets translated, or is there devices out there?
Great question. Actually, that's why in a moment you will see the interpretation instructions in the bottom, and you'll click on in the channel, and we'll be interpreting the back end. That way, your meeting is just going to be smooth, and we're interpreting on the back end. It won't be any conflict.
That's not.
No, I'm talking for those in person.
In person, I'm not sure if it's connected because we're only interpreting for online. So this meeting, if it is connected for in person, they should be able to hear as well with the device.
Your question is if there are any headphones or opportunities for people in the room to listen in Spanish.
Hello, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, Orit.
So
we did talk about
can
this.
that be noted? I mean,
Well, I just
there's
wanted
no translation in Spanish for audience in public, so for future meetings.
Actually, I want to just explain our discussion yesterday, which you were not part of, so let me just catch everybody up. We agreed that if there's anybody in the audience today who does need Spanish translation, that we would bring the interpreter who's currently on Zoom out of the back channel so that they could hear the audio in the room and then sequentially translate if that is needed today. That's the plan.
It was determined that we didn't need it because we didn't expect anyone that spoke Spanish to participate?
No,
We have the
Or any other
plan
language, I
to do
suppose?
that if anyone is here. So no, it's not that we didn't expect anyone, but this was the plan.
To move them into a different room?
No, nobody will be moved physically. We will move our interpreter electronically, who is on the Zoom, out of the Spanish channel that they're in so that they can hear the audio in this room and then sequentially translate for everyone.
Seems logistically complicated, but may I recommend in the future, just do it how it's tradition, that you have an online, and then you have a physical translator here with the headsets. That way we have simultaneous translation, and neither the online nor the in-person suffer the language barrier.
Thanks for the suggestion.
So we'll track this as an item to come back to for future planning, the interpretation, just to clarify our approach moving forward. Okay, in the next slide, we have some instructions in terms of participation today. There'll be dedicated time for public comments. And so for those in the room, we will review the sign-in sheet in the front to see if anyone checked that they would like to make a comment, or during comment period, you can physically raise your hand and we'll call on anyone who wants to provide comments. And if you are joining by Zoom, use the hand raise function to get into a queue. Those who are calling in, so Zoom phone participants may dial #2 to raise their hand. And again, we will inform those who are calling in when they are invited to speak so they can unmute during public comment. And to mute and not unmute, you dial *6. And so these are the instructions. We'll come back to this later during public comment. And I think with that, we can now move to, one more thing in terms of tech support. If there's still any issues for those joining remotely, please reach out for help. We have CARB staff, Johnny Raymond. You can text or phone Johnny at 916-264-9787. And just as a reminder, the meeting is being recorded, and I'm assuming will be available later on the website. Yep. All right, and I think that with that, we can move to call roll and invite members to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Ori. So first, we have Martha Dina, who is participating remotely.
hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Juan Flores?
Present.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Ken, just while you calling the names, for those that are called, would you mind also just sharing your affiliation, just so people just know who you are beyond just a name? Would love for you to be able to say a little bit more than just hello.
Sure. I'm Marta Dina Arguello. I'm one of the co-chairs. I'm with Physicians for Social Responsibility and have served on the EJAC since 2006.
Thank you, Martha Dina. Juan Flores?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Juan Flores with the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. I've been part of EJAC for, I don't know, just a little bit over a year.
Great, thank you. Angel Garcia?
Good afternoon, everyone. Angel Garcia with California Surpassing Reform. And briefly, I also want to mention that, never mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Catherine?
Dr. Catherine Garupa, Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, they and she pronouns.
Thank you. Kevin Hamilton?
Kevin Hamilton, he, him, pronouns, been on the EJAC since 2011.
Thank you. John? John Harriel Jr.? Big John?
Oh, Kevin Hamilton forgot to say he's with Central California Asthma Collaborative. Excuse me.
Thank you, Kevin. Big John, are you remote? Okay, Tom Helm?
Hello, Tom Helm, co-founder of Valley Improvement Projects. This is my first round on the EJAC.
Matt Holmes?
Matt Holmes, California Environmental Justice Coalition, coming out of Stockton. This is my first go around on the EJAC.
Kevin? Yes.
Oh.
Ray Leon? Luis Olmedo?
Luis Olmedo, Comité Cívico del Valle.
Jill Sherman?
Hey, Jill Sherman here, a member of the Hoopa Tribal Council and the executive director of the Native American Environmental Protection Coalition. My first go around here on the EJAC and the first Native American to be a part of this. Super excited. Pronouns are she, her.
And back to Kevin.
John Kevin Jefferson III. John Kevin Jefferson III, member of Urban Relief, member of Ubuntu 1865. I've participated in, 3 or 4 scoping plans. I've been in this building for a long time, many years. But I have to share what took place today. Today I walked into the building and I asked, well, I didn't ask. I said, I'm Kevin Jefferson, I'm the co-chair. I'm looking for the Natural Lands Working Room. Can you help me? No one was able to help me. So I did what I naturally do. I went up to the 2nd floor where we usually meet, which is here, and I wandered around a little bit. One of the employees saw me wandering around and said, hey, what are you doing? I'm looking for the Natural Lands, CARB, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, let me help you. So we walked around for about 15 minutes, couldn't find it. So she's like, I don't know what to tell you. So I go back down to the security desk on the 1st floor and say, can you help me? I'm already checked in, I've already got a badge, I've already been in the building for 15, 20 minutes. Security guard sitting there says, I don't know where the room is, but let me get some help for you. He knocks on the door, some guy comes out, and then he says, where are you supposed to be? I'm not supposed to be anywhere, I'm just in the building to go to a meeting. Can you help me? He says, well, since you don't know where it is, maybe I need to call the police. I was born in 1968. I'm 54 years old. So I have an absolute understanding of racism. That's why I participate in the environmental justice, because the shit that's going on is bullshit. And unfortunately, I've been having to see it since 1968. But to come into the Environmental Protection Agency building to go to a meeting and no one can help me, but more importantly, the solution was to call the police. And I have a good trouble John Lewis fucking t-shirt on. Am I here to cause problems? Yes, I am. But is it good trouble? Perhaps. Is the solution police? Perhaps. So my answer to him was, use my phone and call them. Please. Because we do have a problem. So then his solution was to go on the door and close the door. So he didn't call the police. He didn't help me get to the room. He just did whatever. But he had the propensity to speak the language of hostility by informing a black man that the solution to his problems was calling the police. So that happened a couple of hours ago. So since those couple hours ago, I've been having to contemplate, should I tear his fucking head off? Because I'm a United States military veteran that does not have it all. But I have to have it all to be a citizen of this world that we live in. So I have to do what I have to do to coexist. So how I coexist is I work hard. I show up every day and I do what I gotta do. You just called my name. I couldn't answer to my name because the union that I work for just called me and asked me could I be in charge of a team to complete a job next week. The job that we're talking about is a $50 million fucking event. I'm not gonna make $50 million off of it, apparently, or no, but it's a big event. Apparently. And apparently, I should be involved, right? But to have to coexist in this planet with the bullshit by some idiot that has a job, so with his job and his shit that he's grown up with, he has a propensity to tell me where I need to be and how I should be there. But that's just a minuscule of the bullshit we're dealing with right now, right? And what I'm talking about is the bullshit we're dealing with right now is that we have been a part of the California's way of doing business for a while. Let me break that down. They've allowed us to be a part of the scoping plan for the last 20 years. Correct? Right? But that relationship consisted of coming into this fucking building once a year, every 5 years, after 1 or 2 years of a lot of work and preparation to give recommendations on how we could be equally shareable, feasible human beings on this land and space called California. Are you kidding me? But we show up and we give those recommendations. 20 years into the plan, we come to realize that the recommendations were some shit on the end of the page, addenduments that didn't mean anything. They didn't go anywhere. So 20 years into this, we're saying, what the fuck are we really doing here? If we're just gonna give addenduments at the end of the day, or the page, or the booklet, or whatever manual, whatever you wanna call this document. So then we have the understanding to say that, okay, we need to make this permanent because the recommendations have just been some conversation. We need them around so that that conversation becomes reality. But in the middle of making that conversation become reality, we decide to just change the whole program. We got the young lady who was very instrumental in 20 years with the program, or a lot of that 20 years, kicked to the fucking curb. Okay? I'm not gonna name names because we know who we're talking about. Okay? But the very person that knew the agenda, the very person that had our badges ready when we came in the building, the very person that had signs up that would tell us which room to be in, the very person who could rent a vehicle for us and it'd be good, the very person who made sure that the hotel that we're staying is ready. Okay? That very person, right, is told to us that we're going to give her a promotion and send her over there so that she could do a better job for us. Bullshit. Straight bullshit. Okay? And because she's gone is the reason why I got disrespected in this fucking building. The very reason why I'm here is because of that person. Because I, as 54 years old, understand that my life is in jeopardy once I walk out of my door in the morning, every day. So my every move is calculated. There was a 25-year-old rapper that said that, and as soon as he said that, he was murdered. Okay? But my every move is calculated. So a part of my calculations was speaking to that young lady to make sure that my moves were okay. Because if my moves are not okay, I don't need to fucking be here. Because my life is in jeopardy. And guess what? That's what happened today. My life was in jeopardy. Whenever a black man is told that the police could be called on him, is every moment that George Floyd situation could happen. So that's what I had to deal with today. I'm twice as old as that fucking guy, and he ain't even here no more. Right? So this is the shit that's real. So when we talk about environmental justice, it's not just two fucking words. We're talking about these communities that have to deal with calculated moves every day upon air problems and water problems and all kind of other problems. Like, this is not for play. You feel me? We're all in here because we are in here. Why are we in here? Because we got a fucking job and we got a fucking house to go to and we're safe. So because we're safe, we got some extra time to go over there and deal with maybe their problems. Well, their problems is my problems. Because every day I have to leave my house wondering, am I going to get the fuck back to my bed? That's a fucked up thought. It's a fucked up thought to have one day. I'm going to be 55 in September. So that amounts to 22,000 days if you do the math. 365 times 20. It's a couple of days. And then if you do the minutes, it's a couple minutes. Or you could do the hours. I'm a math guy, so I can break that down to you. But at the end of the day, that's what the shit is really about. So I paced in front of the fucking building for 2 hours, wondering, should I come in this building? That's what I did the 2 hours before I came in this building. I paced, trying to put in my mind that it's okay for me to go in that building that I've been in for 20 years. So imagine if you got to deal with all of that and you were born in a situation where the oil refinery is across the street, so low birth rate, anemic, cancer-ridden, all of that. I was born in Hunters Point, San Francisco. That's where I was born, right? In 1968. Not far after the shit blew up over there. So there's all kind of chemicals and madness in me. And then I went in the military. Got a couple more chemicals announced to me, introduced to me. But somehow, I'm able to be free enough to walk in any building in America. But is that the truth? I'm sorry for ranting, but the shit was fucked up.
But it is.
And it is what it is.
I think it was generous of you to contextualize it in the history of environmental justice, but the fact of the matter is a well-known member of this committee was threatened with institutional violence today, showing up for his volunteer job or his independent consultant job. And, you know, what are the badges for if they don't protect you from those types of threats? And I think it's something that needs to be looked into. And Kevin, I am sorry you had to experience that. My old man walked around this building for a half hour the other day when I was here for the 1757 committee last week. White baby boomer stomped all over this building. Nobody gave him a side-eye look. He had no idea where he was going. This is an experience that I've never experienced, but it really is an outrage that you've been invited here on behalf of, you know, a community and treated that way by somebody who was so culturally incompetent and is still collecting a paycheck from the state of California.
Kevin, Mr. Jefferson, just want to thank you for sharing this experience with everyone. You're absolutely right. It is completely wrong, and I am personally sorry that you had to experience that. I am going to look into it, and we will report back. I am glad that the CARB representative that you met on the second floor tried to be helpful. We will endeavor to do better with signage and to have people on hand from the program to greet you as you're in. We have shared our text and phone information so that any of you can reach us. I know that many of you have my cell phone number, and you are always welcome to reach out to me.
I would say thank you. But I would say let's exert that energy on how we could move this EJ agenda. I'm not concerned about him. He's been here a long time. He's the boss. So he's not going anywhere. I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is that the next time we come here, that there's signage so that we know where we're going so we don't have to go.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? But more importantly, what I'm concerned with is that we move this agenda of environmental justice from the addendum to reality.
Agreed. That's why we're here.
If I may, and with with permission of the co-chairs, but most importantly with the permission of my colleague, Kevin Jefferson, it is very disheartening. This is not an isolated issue. This is an ordeal that environmental justice has been having to deal with. And a lot of times we get an answer, an immediate answer, we'll do better. I'd like to ask that this issue be elevated to the executive officer, to the chair and the board, and that there be an investigation, there'd be a resolution, because it's not just an isolated situation. It's an issue where an institution that has made express commitments all the way from the top of the leadership, the governor's office, executive orders. And when it feels like there's a step forward, all of a sudden there's 4 steps backwards. And I thank my colleague, Mr. Jefferson, for his service, for his leadership, for his commitment over decades, dealing with his own struggles and yet having a heart and having the interest of helping others as he did in his service, as he continues to serve us, environmental justice, continues to serve his community. California Air Resources Board is an agency of the people. That's everyone. That includes environmental justice. I want to thank you, Kevin, for speaking out on the fact that we had assistance, we had, and I will say it, Trish Johnson did a phenomenal job for the Environmental Justice Advisory Committee. And I think there's an opportunity for the Air Resources Board to bring those capacities back and add all of you who are here as well. And I thank all of you who are here. But we're in a situation that equity for environmental justice means we add. Very simple. It's not complicated. We don't take away. Because that very well-known graphic that says you got to add so that we all get to see on the other side, the greener side. Hopefully one day we get to step on the greener side, but right now at least we want to see the greener side. We want to see what that looks like. Well, we're not going to see it if we continue to remove boxes. And that's the scenario that we are facing right now. And it could all be given an explanation to us, but the reality is that I commend my colleague. It is disheartening for what he went through. And I hope that this does reach the highest levels of California Resources Board, and that a plan not only to address the risks of coming into the building, but also the risk of being excluded in very critical conversations that are impacting many lives, environmental justice communities. Thank you.
And Sharifa Taylor is not in attendance today. And that concludes the roll.
I just feel like it should be mentioned for maybe there's folks watching or in attendance that don't know this, but it was only a couple of years ago when several Black employees of CARB felt the need to write a letter together about racial discrimination they had experienced, not just in this building, but in this department. A couple years before that, I remember I was involved in speaking at a panel where Department of Toxic Substances Control had whistleblowers bring out racist emails making fun of people of color, their names, the fact that we're a bunch of scientists and educated people. Why do we always have to listen to these community members that come in and want to complain about everything? So this isn't, I think it's the point's been made. This isn't just a, one-time experience. There's a systematic issues here, and I just wanted to add that in for context.
Thank you. So I see that Member Jill Sherman, you have a hand raised. I know we want to get to our agenda, but this is so foundational to the work that you do. I want to make sure that at least we have an opportunity for members to share their thoughts and support. So go ahead, Jill Sherman, member.
Thank you so much. I feel so bad because I was in the room waiting, or in the virtual room waiting for Kevin, and had no idea any of this was going on, and really confused by the way the agenda or the way things happened today with the meeting, and the confusion that's happened. I, as a AJAC member, would like to sign on to a letter that maybe we can write something to address this issue. I mean, I don't know why I'm feeling so embarrassed for CARB, but I do. And I guess that we weren't even involved in, we miss Trish. she was right on, and I don't know where that decision came from, but now I have a lot of questions in my mind and a lot of concerns for the EJAC moving forward, just in terms of us being able to be in our meeting space to get the work that we need to get done. So that's all I wanted to say. I think we should formalize this issue.
I have to say that I absolutely appreciate the love, the camaraderie, and the understanding. And that's why I'm here, because I appreciate my brothers and my sisters, because this is a battle that we're in. The difficulty is that I just so happen to be multi-degreed, military veteran, honor society, homeowner, union worker. So I have all of these American credentials to be in America. But there's a lot of folks that don't have those, right? My mother is 90 years old, born a sharecropper, is still living. So I have my lived experiences, and I hear her about her lived experiences. And she too has a lot of American credentials. But there's 8 billion plus people on this planet that don't have a lot of credentials. In fact, I would say maybe 80% of those 8 billion don't have those credentials. But we are all on this same planet, using this same water, breathing this same air together. So it's not about the credentials, or is it really, right? Unfortunately, I have the immune system to deal with this, shall I say. I don't have a degree in sciences or anything. I have a degree in education and psychology. I got a degree in psychology not to become a paid psychologist, doctor, or whatever, but simply to understand what will it take my mindset to exist in this land that we're in. That's the sole purpose of me getting a degree in psychology, to understand how to exist. That's unfortunate. But the work that we're putting in is trying to help those that do not have the credentials to exist where those have the credentials are and share the same spaces. Can we get our shit together to find out a way to help those that don't have the credentials to exist right next to the ones with the credentials in the same manner? Because we only have so much water and so much air, meaning the same water and the same air. That's our duties. We hear so many problems and see so many problems on the news every day that it's normalized, right? The problem of the black and brown is normalized. So then we hear it, we feel it, and then we go eat dinner and go to sleep, and that's that. How do we get out of that? How do we get out of that? How do we get out of normalizing the bullshit? Because it's bullshit, right? Like, I've been trained, I've been legally trained, right, to take care of people that disrespect me. But then I'm also trained to know the consequences of dealing with the legalities of what I know. And that's what these people have to deal with every day. They legally know that they should have a righteous way of living, but it's not existing. So how do we get to that? Let's concentrate on that.
Again, Kevin, I appreciate you conflating this with the big picture around the historic structure of environmental justice. But I want to focus on the fact that you were threatened with institutional violence coming here as a servant of a community. And I think I want to make a motion to request that the executive officer investigate security around, what are we? Independent, non-regular visitors to this building. I've stomped around this building. I've never been scared. Nobody threatens me with calling the cops. I haven't earned half the stuff you've been through. So I'd like to make a motion to request an investigation of your threat by security staff in this building. And I'd also request a resolution apologizing to you for your treatment here in this building. So that's my motion. I don't know if I have a second. Do we do motions?
I'll second.
I'd like
You
to
got
second.
2 seconds.
Oh, go ahead, someone. Who was on mic?
Martha, second the motion.
Jill.
Um,
Jill and I both
Jill.
said it at the same time.
We do have a hand raised from member Angela Garcia, so I want to give member
Before we take
Garcia
a
an
vote,
opportunity
may
to share thoughts. Go ahead.
Brother Jefferson, thank you for bringing this into this space. I'm sorry, and my chest hurts because it reminds me of moments where I've experienced something similar, and as you mentioned and shared, because we're able to employ certain articulation of the matter, and we have experience being in or a degree of experience being in these type of spaces, at least in my case, I'm able to sort of finesse my way and get through them. But I also feel for the countless brothers and sisters out there that don't have it the same. And in the realm of environmental justice, or in this case, environmental racism, I mean, it's very much real when we have, in the case of the issue that I often and focus in on, pesticides. I mean, this is too real. It hits home. It reminds me of what am I supposed to tell the mother who has a child that's been diagnosed with autism when she's not even making ends meet? What? And so thank you for reminding us that this is not just out in the communities, but it's also very much entrenched in the building. And there's a lot of work ahead of us. So I commend you. And yeah, so sorry. Sorry for us.
Thank you, Member Garcia. And I think this is really an important place for us to start. I'm really sorry for the experience, but it is really important that as you do the work, that it's always grounded in individual experiences. This is not just about policy, it's about humanity, it's about people. And there's important work ahead, and keeping in mind individuals is incredibly important, so we don't lose sight what this is all about. I want to check with co-chairs how you want to proceed with this motion that was just suggested, seconded as well. If somebody wants to formulate it, if you want to vote on it, we still haven't started our welcoming and agenda, so we do want to make sure that we get to that. Go ahead.
I did want to make a comment. Mr. Jefferson made a comment, and I don't want to paraphrase, but it's about, regardless of our credentials, degrees, where we live, our wealth. And I think that's always the goal. But I did want to take opportunity to say a couple of things. One is, I do want to recognize that we're in the Cal EPA building, where we're very fortunate to have the first Latina Secretary Yana Garcia. who sits for the first time, a woman of color, in such an important office. We are also in assignment within the California Air Resources Board. So I wanted to make that distinction, but not necessarily a separation. The California Air Resources Board, as far as my understanding, is predominantly scientists and engineers. And predominantly is an agency that does operate based on credentials. And because of its formal actions around equity, inclusion, diversity, that have been widely discussed within the board, I think this is an important moment to recognize, is this vision possible that Mr. Jefferson is presented to us when we have an institution that is so exclusive, a board that is so exclusive? And is that potentially a driver and permission for the type of behavior and risk that my colleague, Mr. Jefferson, had to experience? I hope that this really generates an internal and external conversation. Thank you.
Luis, I do want to interject because you did mention our board, and I think it's an appropriate time to, again, remind the group that previously, Kevin, when I responded to you, that I said that I would be looking into this. I've already alerted our executive officer, Steve Cliff, and our board member, we're joined here today by Gideon Krakoff. So just wanted to make sure to acknowledge for everyone's information that he is present and listening.
Thanks, Deldy.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
hold on,
Yeah.
just before we continue on, I know that.
Well, I was going to say
Flores-
something.
What's
Can I say something? This is Gideon.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm off video today, traveling, but I wanted to be here and just so apologetic. Kevin, I'll call you afterwards to see exactly what happened, and we'll figure out next steps working with staff. Don't really know what to say. I did already alert Leanne and Steve to what has happened here. And Steve said it sounds terrible. He'll make sure that Secretary Garcia knows, and he asked that I apologize to you, Kevin. So we'll get to the bottom of this and try to move forward. But I am listening in today, and I'm so sorry that this has happened. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Member Flores, go ahead. Thank you for being so patient and waiting.
No worries. Just to add into the motion, one of the things that I would like to see, because today it was completely different from any other time that I have been on this building. And I've been coming here for at least 3 times a year for the last 12 years. And today was the first time that I was told, as many of us, if you need to move from one place to another place within this building, you need to be escorted. I understand their security protocols, but they failed today. And I think what I would like to add on the motion is, could we also do an investigation when that security protocol changed, who designed it, and who approved it? Because it was very oppressive. If those security guards receive orders, who did those orders came from? Who ultimately was the one that approved that? Because that is making a reflection within the leadership of this building. And that needs to be addressed. The fact that we still have to be told you need to be escorted because you might take something that doesn't belong to you. Okay? I'm not here for that. I'm here because our community members are dying in our communities, and we're here because we need to represent them. But when you create these situations, what hope is there left for our communities? When the institution, when the public building that our taxes is paying for cannot be felt like a safe place for us to be. I really want to take a look into that security protocol. When did it change it? Who designed it? Who approved it? Thank you.
So I want to check in about the motion and the language around that, so we can have a good understanding what exactly is the wording. We'll vote on it, and I think then we'll take a short break to just kind of take a moment. I think this is not something that you can just gloss over. We're going to all need a moment to reflect and regroup after a few minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the language can be summed up as a request for an investigation into the security incident that threatened a member of the Environmental Justice Advisory Committee, and to refer to the governing board details about the incident, and ask the governing board to respond as they see fit. And hopefully it's something in the form of a resolution apologizing to Mr. Jefferson for his treatment in this building.
Okay, so I have that EJAC is requesting an investigation on security protocols and to understand the incidents where a member of the advisory committee was threatened, refer that to the governing board, and share what had happened. And with that, to receive a response on how they look to address it, preferably with a resolution and an apology. Yes?
I would put on the end and report back to the EJAC on what process is put in place to ensure that this travesty doesn't occur a second time. This was obviously a massive communications fuck up on the part of, no offense, but the leadership team here that should have let this security team know what was happening in this building. This will reflect back on you as a leadership team. If it was me doing it, I'd be accountable to it as well if it happened in my office. So even though someone else is responsible for that, I'm ultimately responsible because it's my office and I lead that organization. So they obviously didn't know we were coming. Now, their response was on them to not call their boss and see what was happening. I'm assuming those people have a phone number they can call, somebody they can contact 24/7 if they're working in this building to see if something is happening that they didn't know about, and that they're briefed at the beginning of the day if there's something unusual that's going on. I mean, these are simple processes that could have avoided this whole problem, but it's a mindset of the person at the table who's left on their own that I'm really concerned about, because there were more ways than one to respond to that. And a primary one was, how can I help you? Oh, I don't know anything about that. I'll find somebody who does. Can you just sit over here for a moment, sir, and I'll get you taken care of. Instead, we got a really, I can't even talk about it. Anyway, I'm not going to go through that again. But that, just add in that we want to report back on processes, what went wrong, and how it's being corrected, so that we can be assured that it won't happen in the future, and that we have something to fall back on that can make us all confident that whoever we bring to this building, whether it's a member of this committee or a guest, they'll be treated with respect from the door in, and can expect that kind of hospitality that you would get in my house or in my office. And if you didn't, I'd damn sure make sure that something happened.
Thank you, Kevin. So 3 components to the response: a resolution, an apology, and sharing what went wrong and concrete steps to be taken to avoid this from happening in the future. All right, so with that, is there a second for this motion to approve it?
Second.
Second was Kevin?
Thought I heard somebody else as well.
Somebody else?
That was Martha, but yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. Kevin or Lee.
All right, so Martha and Kevin second the motion. And so do you want to go through roll call to vote on this? What is the EJAC's process for? Yeah.
It's not a.
Yeah, it's a roll call vote.
That's what they do.
Okay, so go ahead. So you're going to call everybody's name to pass the motion? Okay, that's my question. All right, well, I see confused faces, so I'm just checking in.
There's a motion and there's a second.
There is a second.
And there's a vote and that has to go through. I
So
don't- what
can
was
you
your-
say what you
what
were
was your
saying in the mic?
response to that?
My understanding, and again, that there is no voting process for the
No,
EJAC.
we do, we do
Have you
by
done that before?
consensus.
By consensus.
We operate by consensus, and
Okay.
Every time
I
there's
have a
motion,
feeling that
there's
there's
a second.
consensus here.
Okay. So then let's check for consensus.
All right,
Through roll call.
through a roll call. All right. Okay, so we're going to check for consensus with a roll call.
So check in for consensus on roll call.
So
Martha
just
Dina?
hold on. So just to make sure that we have done the process in a way that is consistent with your understanding, we had a discussion, there was a motion, we had a follow-up discussion, we updated the language with an amendment, and we got a second on that, and now we're calling roll call to gain consensus from the committee before we move forward. Does that seem, is that your understanding of how you do this? Yes, I see a nod, yes.
A better question is that your understanding of how it should be done and how it is done?
That's my understanding, yes.
That's, the confusion seems like it's coming from that side, not over here.
My understanding that that's how you would do that, and I want to make sure it's consistent with your process because this is my first meeting with all of you.
The question, where is legal?
Well, hang on.
We are Bagley
Martha's-
Keene.
Martha's a chair, and so is Catherine. So
Yeah,
what is the process, Martha and Catherine, as chairs? What do you understand the process to be? I heard Martha talk about working to consensus. We have had votes on things before where we've had roll call. I can't remember why we've done one once and then worked to consensus on other things, so maybe we
I
could
think when we haven't had
clarify that.
consensus or there's been some confusion, we've done the roll call. But I think in this case, we should do the roll call vote.
There you go.
Yeah, we'd be done with it
Let's
already.
keep it
All right,
simple and
thank
get
you,
that
Martha.
done.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call that, Johnny, and move forward.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll do. So consensus roll call, be calling first names. Martha Dina?
I vote yes on the resolution, including the addendum in the chat that it be made public, that the response be made public.
Juan?
Yes.
Angel?
I vote yes.
Dr. Catherine?
Yes.
Kevin Hamilton?
Yes.
Big John? Not attending? Thomas?
Yes.
Matt?
It's my motion. Aye.
John Kevin?
I'll refrain so it doesn't seem personal.
Ray? Not attending? Luis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Sharifa is not in attendance. Roll call is done.
All right, and you have a majority there, so the resolution passes and approved by everyone. It is 2:41. We're going to take a 10-minute break to just reflect and think about this conversation, and then we'll come back, move forward with our agenda. So we'll be back at 2:51. For those of you who are joining remotely, I believe to be able to see us, you need to use the streaming link. And I'm going to ask Johnny, can you put the link for people who want to use the streaming so they can see us?
Yeah, we modeled
I'll do that.
During the break? All right, thank you.
Yes, we'll do.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll be back at 2:51.
Okay, well, that all the documents are everything?
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe forward the email to Ben, but maybe some more of them, but I came in on these, the thing that seems fine, the only one that might get is the pause is that draft and then certify that that's all the documents and you can receive it.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope everybody had a chance to take a moment and rest and recharge, and we're ready to move forward. Before I turn it to the co-chairs, I'd like to invite Deldy Reyes to introduce the CARB staff who are here with us today.
Thank you, Orit, and thank you for the opportunity to say hello to everyone. My name is Deldy Reyes. I work for the California Air Resources Board. I manage the Office of Community Air Protection, and I'm here today on behalf of Deputy Executive Officer Chanel Fletcher, who is on extended maternity leave. Congratulations, Chanel. So I'm here today, and I'm joined by the great team at the Office of Environmental Justice, Tribes, and Border Affairs. I'll hand it off to Radhika.
Hello, everyone. I'm Radhika Majel. I'm the branch chief for Environmental Justice and Equity branch. And today I have with me Johnny Raymond.
Thanks, Radhika. Hello, everyone. Johnny Raymond, California Air Resources Board. So this is really kind of like a coming home for me, working with the EJAC again, because I was with you all right at the beginning, right when AB 32 Environmental Justice Advisory Committee was basically established in 2007. So worked with the committee, and Martha Dina was a founding member, and so it's great to work with her again. Had that role until 2010. Took a time off working on cap and trade and some of the other climate programs. Helped the committee do some outreach and public engagement in 2017, and now part of my assignment is to help lead the EJAC as a liaison. So looking forward to working with you all. I extremely apologize for what happened today. It's not right, and we need to mitigate it and fix it. I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Megan.
Hi, my name is Megan Caff. I'm the student assistant here at the Office of Environmental Justice, Tribal Affairs, and Border Relations, and I'm excited to be working with all of you.
All right, thank you. Thank you to your support for the meeting today. Just a reminder, the cameras in this room are not working today. And so again, just a reminder, there is a link in the chat for streaming so you can see us, not just hear us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the EJAC co-chairs. And I'm assuming I'm starting with you, Dr. Catherine Garuba.
I think we're going to do meeting agreements first, with which Martha Dina has volunteered to read through. If we could pull up those slides.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the meeting agreements. I want to remind everyone to take a breath. This has been a really difficult morning to navigate all of this. With that said, our meeting agreements are to pay attention to equity of airtime, and it's the step up if you don't talk, and step up if you talk more than others, and give space, right? That's really about making sure all of us have an opportunity to speak. Watch for I know it'll be hard, we're managing 2 locations, but to watch the queue when folks raise their hand. Be present, and this will be particularly hard. We've had a really difficult morning that's probably triggering to all of us who've experienced racism firsthand. It takes you back to all the other times you've experienced it. So be present, take care of yourself, breathe, drink water, do whatever you need to be able to be in the space. Be open and be flexible in our approaches. Let's be realistic and monitor our ability to get through the full agenda. And as always, we seek to create synergies in our work and do a yes and, so we build upon each other's work. Listen and be compassionate and supportive. Reach for and invite inspiration and intuition. Look for ways to move toward action where possible. Respect the agenda. And I feel weird saying trust the process.
So I would say trust the process that we as EJAC members have developed, but know that often these processes within these agencies are not set up for our success. And then share responsibility for success as well. And with that, I will hand it back over to Catherine.
Thank you, Martha Dina. Want to underscore what folks have already spoken to, that it's been a very emotional start to the day, a lot of feelings to process, and I feel so sorry and so sad for what my fellow co-chair Kevin has experienced. It's definitely something that I'm still processing and feeling without words. It doesn't seem right to say welcome or to express excitement about being here based on the way that we've started out the day. It's been a rough start, both in terms of the unfortunate incident that happened this morning and also issues that have been happening behind the scenes. What happened is completely unacceptable, and I do want to reiterate and underscore that the report back that happens through the EJAC will happen in a public meeting, and that we want to make sure that this is adequately followed up on. Also really want to acknowledge and thank Trish Johnson for all she did as a staff person to ensure that EJAC had what it needed, and welcome the new staff who certainly have a lot of work ahead of us as we move into being a permanent committee, because believe it or not, this is actually our first committee meeting now that we've become a permanent committee. So I want to thank and congratulate my committee members. Again, as difficult as that feels to try to celebrate in this moment, what I'm celebrating is the honor and privilege that I have of working with you all, how inspirational you are, and how much we as a body have accomplished despite the challenges that we have encountered. Sometimes it feels like at every step of the process. As one of your representatives at the CARB board meeting where the charter was adopted, I also think that it's important to report back on the discussion there. We were essentially told by the board that our committee is not diverse enough and that we need more youth. And I think it's important for us to keep in mind that issues are intersectional. The environmental justice movement is diverse, and the EJAC has never claimed to be a monolith that can represent all of the movement. I think I can only speak for myself, but I think we agree that mentorship and bringing up people is a vital part of the process. So the chair recommended to all of us that we consider what our succession plan is. As a co-chair who spends dozens of hours every week that is non-paid time to help prepare and make sure the committee has what it needs, that is feedback that I'm going to take very seriously and reflect upon what that means for myself and for the future of this committee. I was also disappointed to learn that if I am able to find an alternate, which has been very difficult because if organizations, staff people are funded by money from the Air Resources Board, they're not allowed to serve on committees. But if I am able to find an alternate at some point, they will not automatically take my seat if I leave the committee, which leaves the question of why am I recruiting an alternate and asking them to invest dozens of hours of unpaid time in showing up and being a part of this committee if they're being essentially excluded from that opportunity to advance in the process. What we are doing as a committee is precedent setting, and I understand that we all take this commitment very seriously and feel the weight of what we're doing, that this is not just for environmental justice communities, but this has implications for how we try to confront institutional racism and oppression in all of its forms. We absolutely need the resources to match that, and that has been an ongoing challenge for us as a committee. So today, this morning, we had the opportunity, some of us, those of us who are not blocked by security, were able to meet as work groups and have the opportunity to discuss what our priorities are moving forward, what needs we have, what goals we have, and the things that we would like to take on. This is a conversation that can only begin today and not conclude, because it's an ongoing process. And because as much as we want to have focus and priorities, we also want to be inclusive of all of the issues that environmental justice communities are facing. And I want to take the opportunity to remind fellow committee members that we have gotten a commitment from the board to revisit our charter 18 months from when it was adopted. And I think there are definitely issues that we're going to need to figure out how to address moving forward together. So with that, I want to give the opportunity to co-chair Kevin Jefferson if he would like to make opening comments before we move into our first agenda item, which will be report outs from the work groups that we're able to meet.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I never want to be on Front Street. I never want to be in the limelight. I never want to be under a spotlight. So this morning was difficult because not only did I have to experience some madness, but then I had to be in the limelight. Two places that I don't want to be, and I happen to be in two of those places on the same day. So it's difficult. But I'm credentialed to deal with the day. But what I can say is that what I've come to understand is that Trish Johnson was a very integral part of our team. And the removal of Ms. Johnson from our team has caused a rift. Some may say that because this is a full committee that we are new. I will beg to differ and say that this is a continuation of the 20 years of work that we put in. And the one person that has been here, or one of the people that has been here the longest, which has encompassed a lot of relations and has a lot of information, has been removed from the team. But more importantly, what I do know is that if she was a part of the team, I personally would not have had to go through what I went through today. So then I have to question myself and what I'm doing here to say that if a decision is made to remove an integral part of a team arbitrarily to give an, I don't know, we've been told all kind of things. She was given an upward job position she deserved. I don't know, we've been lateral promotion, right? We've been told all kind of madness, right? Unfortunately, the conversation that was told to us did not equal the paperwork that was given. So then that's in question. But more importantly is that if she has a power to prevent what happened today, and she has a wherewithal and the knowledge base to help us move in another direction, why was she removed is a question, right? And more importantly, when is she coming back? I'm motioning, I'm second, and I'm thirding that she returns in some fashion. We have people that are working in a percentage basis. So then the question was asked, can she work in a percentage basis? The answer given was no. But how is no the answer if someone else is in that position? So that's not the answer, that's just the arbitrary answer. Because there can't be a formula for here and then not a formula for there. And if it is, that's why some people could come in the building and be free and others can't. Because we have two rules that apply to the same building. And how does that work? How does that really work? So I just want to put it on a record that we need our team member back. We need our team member back right now. And we need to push this agenda. We ain't going nowhere. And there's a problem, and for every problem, there's a solution.
Just process question. I don't think we went through the agenda. There is a slide after this. Was somebody going to?
Yeah, so again, the main agenda item we have today is the work group report out and discussion, but I would also recommend, because the other business has come up, and because Natural and Working Lands was not able to meet as a work group, that if necessary, we defer this item to the next EJAC meeting, because not only have we needed to discuss the things that happened to Kevin this morning, but I think we do also need time to debrief and discuss what happened when the charter was adopted, because not everybody was there. And I think it's important that the committee be aware kind of the dialogue and the recommendations that we were left with as a body.
All right, so we have about until 3:40 where we're going to take public comments. And so I'm going to defer to members to share their comments, their thoughts as this conversation progresses. And as you suggested, we come back to the work group meeting at the next meeting. All right, go ahead. And I appreciate the tense up. If you don't mind, just because I'm still learning who everybody is, turn them, just my cheat sheet, so I can see who's who and call on you appropriately. So I'm gonna start with member Olmedo, please.
Yeah, thank you, Co-Chair Catherine Grupa. I just, if I understood correctly, in your report back, there was a question about the diversity of this group. And so one comment I wanted to make in response to that is that perhaps one of the issues as to the why situations like what we spent time on discussing today and taking action on today is because there is sort of the bureaucratic, I would imagine, direction, and then there's the environmental justice. One of the reasons why there was a point in time and asked for an environmental justice office is so that that office was recruited and filled with those who came with expertise, historical record, vetting, and understanding, and perhaps may have come, as many offices and positions in the state of California are now entering into positions of appointment or being hired into, that know the environmental justice well, or come from environmental justice. I have known Dr. Garupa for 20 years now, who has been committed to the movement. In my own community, there are numerous people that look like me, that are my same color, but don't necessarily agree with the values of environmental justice. So this is a great opportunity to really reflect on what does that mean? Because people make a choice, and there are values, and there are there's other values, you know, that that environmental justice leaders agree to follow. There are principles that are easily found by searching the internet that both state how we as environmental justice represent ourselves and interact with other communities, as well as those values that we follow. And so I think it's an important moment of reflection as to how the California Resources Board is filling the jobs of environmental justice. Is it based on helping respond to, facilitate, and put environmental justice into positions of power, right? Equity, equal, leveling the playing field, right? Where industry can come in and meet with the highest levels. Are we also putting communities that are fence line or are facing risk in the same level of advantage? So that's not, to seek answers right now, but I think it's an important conversation because it seems like there is a difference in understanding as to what environmental justice is within the institution, within the board, bureaucracy, and with the understanding that we come here to help make a difference, to help influence, uplift, and succeed in making sure that we are sort of leveling the playing field for everyone, so everyone succeeds. But we know that environmental justice is our objectives and our goal, and color is not a determinant of success. And I've seen that, where somebody might put somebody of my color and check the box and say, we're done, but that person may come from industry to serve industry. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't or why not, but a lot of times their values are, this business needs to succeed so we can create jobs. So you want jobs or you want good air quality? Take a choice. And people who are environmental justice says we want it all. We want good jobs, we want good benefits, we want protections, we want success for everyone. So color is not a determinant, and many of these things that we think are determinant is wrong because environmental justice has values and has principles. That's what's important. Now the challenge is, how do you build that into a job within the California Air Resources Board so that it can earn its badge and says they are environmental justice? And thank you, Mr. Jefferson, for repeatedly bringing Mrs. Trish Johnson, which I agree with every one of your statements. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have Member Matt Holmes, and following that will be Member Kevin Hamilton. Kevin was up before you. Okay, thank you. And then we have Member Juan Flores as well.
Thank you, man. So when we had the meeting where we discussed the charter and adopted the charter, some of us noted at that point, number one, everybody's not at the table, but also that there was, that the charter was a start, a way to move the ball forward, so to speak, and get this entity organized and sitting. And so here we are. And so the next step in my world is we make sure everybody gets a chance to review that charter and that we make a determination at that point whether we accept it as is or are there still modifications that need to be put in place based on quite a number of things that have happened just in the last 4 to 5 months here in California, in the regulatory framework, in the California state budget, and in this agency itself. So I would propose certainly that I support, let's just say our work group met and I felt like we accomplished a few things. I was looking forward to talking about it. But I wouldn't want to do that unless we can do it completely with our partners. And I'm sure that we'll convene again prior to the next meeting and have a more complete report. But I certainly support the motion to table that until that next meeting as Catherine requested. And let's be sure that we get this charter review on the agenda. And I would suggest that we have a committee that spends some time with that, and I'm willing to be on that committee. So.
You know, I think that committee, Matt Holmes, I think that committee might be the sort of the solution to my request. After we, passed the charter and got the board to vote on a permanent environmental justice advisory committee meeting, those of us that were here were told that our committee needed to work on its diversity and gender equity. And I'm looking around the room as the only white guy in there, feeling pretty targeted. I wasn't going to let him take Kevin out. And I'm all for radical overrepresentation of underserved populations in California. We know who dies young. We know who should be on this committee. It should be Black women with low infant birth weight. But we don't have those participants. We just saw the anti-Blackness threaten one of our committee members in this building. So I'm perfectly okay with leaving this committee, but I want some definitions around what equity looks like. Demographics are real, and maybe we need some more social scientists in the building. 35% of the state of California is white. Whites are underrepresented on this committee. That is not my call to action, but I'm calling out that there are metrics that we can talk about. And when somebody says we want diversity, maybe there should be something concrete to act on, as opposed to just sort of a blanket sort of punch in the belly at the end of a really long day and a long fight for something that I was really happy about. And it really colored the whole vote, and it colored the whole day. We were told that we needed to work on succession, which is what we do for a living in this line of work. I train people, I mentor people, but we also have proxies who can't assume our role. So I would like more guidance on how we can be intentional about planning succession, because nobody wants to sit and nobody wants me to sit here for more than this year. And then also to get some concrete guidance on what they mean by diversity, because the numbers are real. And we can do the math, but I don't think anybody likes that math.
I'm a little bit concerned about those comments that were said to Dr. Catherine. While I'm all for diversity and inclusion, I'm afraid now of the mere fact of why did CARB wanted this committee to be permanent if it's only for a photo op and not for the expertise that I bring to this table and the expertise that all of my colleagues bring into this table and the people they represent every single day of their lives. I'm really concerned about that. And I'm wondering as well, when is CARB board members also gonna do some self-reflection and perhaps raise their hand and say, it's my turn to leave CARB and let young people of color take my seat? I really wanna, is that a self-reflection? And lastly, then how much autonomy do we have as an advisory board, and how independent are we? Or is CARB always gonna come and smack us on the hand and tell us, you shouldn't do things that way, you should do it differently? And that is the very same reason why we wanted to participate on EJAC, because our communities often go through that with their supervisors' board meetings, their city councils, decision makers, who tell them, you don't belong here. I'm really concerned, and I'll leave it at that.
I think I may be next. I can't see the room. Yes, it was actually rather offensive to hear this idea of a succession plan and that younger folks should be here. As someone who has spent a lot of time on the EJAC, has spent a lot of time trying to recruit people to serve on the EJAC. And when they ask me, will I get anything accomplished? I don't always have a positive answer, right? you stay in it, you get committed to it. I often felt like there needs to be institutional memory, and sometimes having institutional memory that predates different board chairs and staff is actually valuable. And to be told, you know, oh, you're too old, go get a young person. You know, I'm 64 and I'm kind of sick of hearing that, right? And I mentor young women, Black and Latina young women. I wouldn't send them to this place. It's not safe. I have thick skin and I've been around the block at least a few times. And so I've taken the hit to do that, but it's just incredibly disheartening to sort of think of what we were told. I've also had a really hard time recruiting people because I'm not going to bring someone to tokenize them. I refuse to do that, right? And so if you want us to bring younger folks, if you want us to bring Black folks into the space, and I don't know who else, you know, whatever is internal calculus you've made, then there's a lot of work that the board needs to do and the staff needs to do to make it a space where we could be effective. We had hoped that with making the EJAC permanent, that was a step toward doing that. And like I said, I have thick skin and I'm not going to let that stop me from continuing to take you at your word, Carb, that you actually want the input from the EJAC and the many other voices that we can help bring to the table, and remind them, no, they have not met many of their obligations, but that doesn't mean we should walk away.
Go ahead, Member Jill Sherman Warren, go ahead.
Hi, I'm just kind of sitting here in shock because I didn't know that these other conversations were happening. And I feel like when I had inquired about should I attend the meeting where they were going to adopt the charter and make EJAC permanent, I was really not encouraged to do so because it was handled. And now I feel like what was handled was my voice in not being included in that. And just the whole movement of, or the lack of understanding the importance of institutional knowledge, as was just shared, that especially in this space, when we're talking about environmental justice, there has to be somebody who has that institutional knowledge, because we're dealing with an entity that doesn't want to, it's almost like I get a very strong feeling like it's institutionally being pushed, wanting to be suffocated. And I'm just blown away by the whole, everything that's happened today. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it, but I'm offended at my colleagues having to justify their position, or even argue for that. I feel like some sort of craziness went on, and really kind of has tried to falsify the voices that have been at the table. And as a newer EJAC person, I'm wondering, why do we even have this? It's really the CARB itself isn't wanting it. I mean, we have a place at the table. We are the communities that are being impacted. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna check in. We have a few more minutes to see if anybody else wants to add on to this. This obviously is going to, the conversation today is going to inform preparing for the path forward. So want to make sure everybody has a chance to weigh in. Go ahead, Member Helm.
Just real quickly, just the initial thoughts. You know, I was on the meeting, or I was on virtually when I saw the resolution get passed for the permanent EJAC, but then I had to leave the meeting, so I missed the comments and found out about them secondhand. But just my very first thought when I heard that was the comment that Juan already made was, I mean, have you seen the CARB board? They're really gonna, you know, throw this stone in their glass house about diversity. So that was just my very first thought. But my second thought was, you know, how long did it take to recruit a Native American EJAC member? You know, where are these other people going to come from? You're probably looking at the folks who are going to, you know, bring younger people into the movement. I was, I guess, that younger person not that long ago. I mean, I just turned 40, but it seems like just yesterday. But, you know, we have young folks in their 20s working for VIP. I couldn't make them my alternate because of the grant situation. We have a very small staff of 6 people. So anybody that's gonna be on this committee is gonna not be able to work on grants that we get from CARB. So that was the big issue. But so if it takes, I mean, I'm not even talking about since when was the first one, 2007, 2005? There was no Native American representative on any of those EJACs. And then even on this round, it was like halfway through the process where they were able to do the outreach necessary. So I'd be very interested to see, you know, how CARB plans on doing that outreach to bring in those folks. Are they gonna look to us as like a non-paid job to find our replacements, or how exactly is that gonna work? So those, I don't wanna go on too long. Those were just my very initial thoughts when I heard about the comments that were made.
All right, so moving forward, thank you everyone for your comments. I know I'm tracking and learning from you to kind of just get a sense of where the committee's at, and we'll follow up. Do you want to move to public comment now? We are at
Yeah, this is Dr. Catherine. I just want to appreciate everybody's comments and support, and again, acknowledge this is an ongoing dialogue, right? This is not a conversation that stops and ends today. So looking forward to the July meeting, we will have the opportunity to bring back the work group report outs that we weren't able to get to today, and have a discussion about the low carbon fuel standard, which was one of the priorities that the carbon markets work group was going to report out on. That being said, I am a watcher of time and want to be respectful of everybody's time, and we committed to end at 4 o'clock, and we absolutely want to make space for public comment. So appreciate everybody's feedback, and unless anyone who hasn't spoken would like to take the opportunity, I think we can move on now to public comment.
All right. So let's see if maybe we can have just a slide back to remind people on Zoom how to participate in the comment period. There is the raise hand option, so you can get into a queue. If you are calling in, #2 for hand raise, and then we have *6 to mute or unmute. So just want to make sure that those who are joining online are able to use the hand raise. And we'll start here in the room with a comment, and we'll go to those joining remotely. And if you can, if you want to introduce yourself as you make your comment, we'd love to know who you are.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Ignacio Fernandez. I'm a senior policy advisor for Southern California Edison. I came prepared to talk about technical issues, as we all were, but all I want to say today is provide our strong and full and unequivocal support to Mr. Jefferson, to what happened to him today. I'm sure all my bosses all the way to the top, and I'm very proud to say our CEO is member of a minority, is a very famous Latino man, always supporting and reminding us every week of the importance of diversity, equity, and if you know Southern California Edison, we are a perfect photocopy of the communities that we serve. And we are extracted from our communities. Some come from very far away from, like me, but this is all I have to say. And in fact, we are meeting later on today at 4 to discuss engagement with CARB, and I will bring this issue to the attention of our executives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here in the room would like to share thoughts, comments? All right, and I can check back if you are so inspired. On Zoom, we have Mike Bullock. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. My name is Mike Bullock. I live in Oceanside, and I've probably followed CARB's work for 10 years or so. I'm a systems engineer. I worked at Lockheed Martin as a satellite systems engineer for 36 years. I've left the company, but I don't consider myself leaving systems engineering. Certainly climate change is a systems engineering problem. Equity issues are often systems engineering problems, especially economic equity. I am active in the Democratic Party. I was at the convention. I'm a baby boomer, white guy that graduated from Robert E. Lee High School in Baytown, Texas. So, you know, I've had a lot to learn and continue to learn. One comment I have after, you know, being at the convention, Democratic Party convention, I don't know where we'd be without BIPOC people. You know, there wouldn't be much of a party. You know, they are so important and insightful, and so I'm learning all the time. But I want to get back to the system engineering part of it. I have delivered papers. My focus is in cars and light duty trucks because that's quite interesting, and I guess everybody here understands that cars and light duty trucks emit the most greenhouse gas by far of any category. And there's also a lot of equity issues that are connected to cars and light duty trucks. And I'm sorry that I don't see those called out here very often. One other thing I wanted to call out, back to the convention and my continuous effort to learn more and be a better person, so on and so forth, is I think I need to mention 1619, that book, and I haven't read it, but I've held it in my hands. I've participated in discussions there, and wow, it really taught me things that I should have known 40 years ago. But anyway, it's a systems engineering problem. It's code red. 8 billion people was mentioned, and we are on a path to end life on this planet. I did put a link in there about an article which makes that case. And there's 2 requirements. The first was in 2030. That's the one that really matters. Forget a net zero by 2045, because if we our performance is really, really bad by 2030, it looks like it will be, we may be in a situation where we're dangerously close to the point of no return, just to use the words that were spoken by the Secretary General of the UN. But I want to say something good about CARB. I followed it for a long time, and this latest scoping plan actually gets down and says some things that they probably hated to say. And they probably should have said it 10 years ago. They should have done the math. They don't show their math. I don't see their math. Now, when I deliver papers, it's, you know, they want to know exactly why everything has been concluded. But CARB got some things really right that are really important. They haven't done the details. They haven't done social equity because the details are down. When you get down into the details, that's when social equity issues are there. But they come right out and say it's a myth to think that we're going to electrify our fleet fast enough. We're just not going to do it. We have to reduce vehicle miles traveled. They got some numbers in there, and I think their numbers are about right. Now, they are achieving the 2030 California mandate. That's actually not enough, but it does get them to the correct result, not quite as large as it needs to be, obviously, because they need to go, the reductions have to be greater by 2030. But anyway, they say we have to reduce vehicle miles traveled per capita, vehicle miles traveled, 25% by 2030. Everything's 2030. With respect to the driving we did in 2019. Now, you can imagine vehicle miles traveled in California, pretty darn high, and it's pretty darn high in 2019. A 25% reduction is, it doesn't mean we're not going to be driving a heck of a lot, but that's really hard to achieve. And they say, they don't have, they probably hate to say that because it makes them look totally foolish because they've been telling the metropolitan planning organizations that they have to reduce their driving. Well, here at Sandag, it's 19%. Well,
Mike, I'm just going to pause you for Mike. I'm just going to pause you. If you can just kind of wrap it up. I just want to check and see if anybody else wants to provide comments before we have to wrap up the meeting. Can you just give one last sentence and then we'll check with others?
Okay, well, the social equity comes how you reduce vehicle miles traveled. So I haven't got to that, but so I'll just leave it there. I'll just say that it's a bit complicated, take some time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike, for your comments. And yes, some of these topics are incredibly complicated, and so having just a couple of minutes to try and summarize could be challenging. I want to check again in the room and see if anybody wants to make any comments or share thoughts. All right, and checking online to see if there's anybody else who want to provide any comments, ideas, thoughts. All right, I don't see anyone. Well, with that, I'm gonna turn it to the closing and next steps.
Yeah, so I'm going to reiterate a couple of details and then also want to utilize this time to open it up to work group members since we didn't have the opportunity to do our full report out. One of the questions we asked you all was what requests you have of EJAC and specifically future agenda items. So if you did have things relevant to our July meeting, I want to make sure we account for those. So just a friendly reminder for folks, our next EJAC meeting is Monday, July 17th. For those able to join in person, we'll be in Riverside, and then the following day we've scheduled a tour of the Emissions Testing Center. The Carbon Markets Work Group has already requested an item to discuss the low carbon fuel standard on that agenda. And you also should have received via email yesterday, committee members, a tentative schedule for the rest of 2023 that we would ask you all to look over and flag if there are any concerns, because the Bagley-Keene exemption is expiring, which means that we have to have physical locations and we have to achieve an in-person quorum moving forward, where previously people were allowed to join via Zoom and we achieved our quorum that way. So please look over your schedule and make sure that you'll be able to join us in person. And with that, I see that Matt has his tint up, so please go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag for the record that, we spun out the natural and working lands measure from the, we recommended that natural and working lands be spun out of the CARB scoping plan and be referred to the California Natural Resources Agency. We weren't alone in that thought, and so the State Assembly passed AB 1757 to create the Natural Working Lands Expert Group within Natural Resources Agency. CARB is co-conducting that experts working group. I think it's vital that working group benefit from the input of this Environmental Justice Advisory Committee that's been working on these issues for so many months. And I know that our next meeting, they only have we meet every other month. So they don't have a ton of meetings left this year. We have a July, a September, and a November meeting. But July 18th is a meeting of the 1757 Experts Working Group. And I just kind of want to raise the flag on somebody helping me figure out how to get these two bodies together And of course, I will forward emails from my coordinator at Natural Resources Agency, but there are CARB folks in the mix on that as well. And we have a Natural Working Lands subcommittee here, but I really think that this is an important working group that would benefit from the input of the entire advisory committee. This is the opportunity to invest in people and places and not lowball what we can do with our open spaces, with our agricultural spaces, with our wildlands. And I think that the benefits of investing in people and places have been artificially held back, and I look forward to having an opportunity for these two working groups to meet.
Go ahead, Martha.
So the Public Health and Social Cost and Just Transition work group did meet. It was Kevin Hamilton, Luis Olmedo, and myself. And I think in terms of what we need, we went through the recommendations that we made, the original set of recommendations, and lifted up ones that we think that we want to convene some meetings. And similar to what Matt Holmes said, is these are sort of system problems, and so not just one agency. So we would love to see if the EJAC could convene a workshop / presentation or training around just transition and a regenerative economy that will bring together and present some of the best practices and models for just transition that are emerging from environmental justice communities, and bring together transportation, housing, energy, other sectors, including sustainable and regenerative ag, folks who are doing bioremediation, folks who are using indigenous land practices to restore air and water and soil, to talk about what does this just transition look like, right? That interagency conversation, how we can do that. Secondly, we really need to meet with OWIHA and CHTP to move on some of the recommendations around having a full life cycle and public health impact assessments of the measures in the scoping plan, particularly CCUS and the rainbow of hydrogen and other solutions that further embed burdens onto environmental justice communities. So those, and we didn't finish, there's a lot more work, but those are the two that came up today.
All right, any other members who participated in discussion this morning want to go ahead, Member Olmedo?
Yeah, I just wanted to again just highlight the importance of there's such a big focus on the ZEBs, electrification, lithium. I just want to make sure I put those as an important priority as well.
And I would just connect that to the conversation we're going to have in July about low carbon fuel standard, because the revenue that's generated through that program is supposed to go to electrifying transportation. So it seems like there's a natural complement there in terms of topics. And as Martha Dina said, well, I convened the conversations around carbon markets, carbon capture, use and storage, and carbon dioxide removal. We discussed a ton, and we have a lot to report out to you all and to share, and requests to make that there's not adequate time for today. So we'll look forward to both following up offline with CARB staff and bringing that back to the July meeting.
Martha, I see you have a hand raised. I don't know if that's from before, if you want to add to what you just heard. And you're muted. Okay.
That was an older hand.
All right, okay, just making sure. All right, anybody else want to weigh in on key topics to bring back to upcoming meetings? All right, I don't see any. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, I briefly attended a ZEP task force meeting, and I know that there's a lot of work that the EJAC will be taking on. This is the first time that we actually get invited, and I want to thank the chair for making EJAC a permanent EJAC so that we are able to do the other part that we haven't been able to do, which engage in the implementation life cycle of it. But in attending this ZEP task force, it was clear to me that one thing that I think we as EJAC, and I invite the California Resources Board as well, is we need to define what environmental justice and climate. And it seems to me that as more time progresses, and I think there's phenomenal work to be done, but it is all the same ecosystem. So we need to take a very close look. If we are drifting away when we talk about climate and environmental justice, when it's all relative. And bills like AB 617 made that clear, that we can't have one without the other, right? That's why we have a bill that put forward a climate strategy around cap and trade, and there was an emission strategy on it. But all consequential from an economic standpoint, from an environmental health standpoint, from a job standpoint, from transitioning to just a whole new way of addressing, eliminating climate pollutants and impacts on the ground. It's going to be important that we take that look. As a 23-year veteran in environmental justice, I can fairly say that I consider myself an expert, and in that expertise, I hope that those who may be fully submerged in climate may just give us the benefit of the doubt to entertain us and say and ask us, and I ask the California Resources be sort of a lead on that. Why does a 23-year veteran of environmental justice feel that climate has become sort of the status, market-based, and environmental justice feels, or at least I feel in my experience, environmental justice is being left behind. We need to bring a conversation and bring the two, because both need to be married together and both needs to succeed as one strategy. Or goal, right? Save people, save the planet, and so on. Thank you.
Well, this is an important comment to end our meeting with, is just thinking about the interconnection of climate and environmental justice, that those should be on even planes is what you're describing. And so with that, it's 4 o'clock, and really appreciate everyone's comments, thoughtful, and looking forward to working with all of you moving forward. Really, again, appreciate being invited to this space. Thank you to all who have joined us here in the room. All of you who are joining us online. We look forward to more conversations with all of you. And thank you, staff. Oh, go ahead, Radhika, sorry.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. And I know the meeting, the start was very rough. It was emotional, and we all acknowledge that. But we still had some discussions, and I'm grateful for those discussions and letting you know we are here to serve, right? We are here to have a journey together. This is our first meeting, so apologies for things that were not done right, but we are here to make it right. So the team is here. We're happy to work together.
Thank you. And thank you to staff who made this happen. Really appreciate everybody's contribution to bring us to learn together and be a community. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to make one last comment. I did want to say I was really pleased to see the structure start to develop here at EJAC, and welcome Radhika, that we actually have a branch chief now. Staying away from the discussion of who's in what seat, part of what we have been fighting for me for 10 years or more now, 11, 12 years, is not only the permanence, but the structure and support within EJAC, within CARB itself. And so while we're not there yet, I feel that from a structural standpoint, and again, staying away from who's in what seat, we're actually starting to see some structure that I think may have some long legs to it. What we had before seemed almost ad hoc most of the time. So despite who's in what chair where, the structure is being established to create actual longevity for this entity on the EJ side, and does show that at least some parts of CARB are committed to this. So thank you for that. And I didn't want to let it go without recognizing again the new staff, because you didn't do anything wrong. You just showed up, okay? So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Very kind words. Again, we are adding structure, we are adding permanence, we are adding resources. So, but the bureaucracy in state is for real. It takes time, even though we wish things would move overnight, but they don't. So thank you for your patience.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.